The crisis erupted over the weekend. On Saturday, January 17th, 2026, U.S. President Donald Trump issued an extraordinary threat: 10% tariffs on the UK and 7 other European allies, rising to 25% by June, unless they agreed to his demand to purchase Greenland from Denmark. By Sunday evening, Starmer was on the phone with Trump. The conversation was tense, direct, uncomfortable. By Monday morning, January 19th, the British Prime Minister stood before cameras at 9 Downing Street to deliver a message that would echo across the Atlantic. The committee room was packed when Jeremy Clarkson arrived that afternoon for an emergency parliamentary session. This wasn't scheduled. This was urgent. NATO was in crisis. The special relationship was fracturing, and everyone wanted answers. Clarkson sat at the witness table, arms folded. His expression was grim. He'd watched the morning press conference, heard Starmer's carefully measured words, seen the diplomatic dance, but this was Parliament, not a press briefing. Time for real answers. Across from him sat Keir Starmer, flanked by advisors and Foreign Office officials. The Prime Minister looked composed, but the strain showed. This was the biggest diplomatic crisis since Ukraine. The committee chair spoke first. Prime Minister, thank you for attending on such short notice. The nation needs to understand the government's position on President Trump's tariff threats regarding Greenland. Starmer nodded. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As I stated this morning, the UK's position is clear. Any decision about Greenland's future belongs to Greenland and Denmark alone. That principle is fundamental. Clarkson leaned forward. You said Trump is completely wrong. Those are strong words for our closest ally. Starmer turned to face him. I said the use of tariffs against allies is completely wrong. There's a distinction. Is there? Clarkson interrupted. You told the President of the United States he's wrong. On the phone, then publicly. That's unprecedented. The room went quiet. Starmer's voice remained steady. When fundamental principles are at stake, sovereignty, territorial integrity, we must speak clearly, even to close allies. Clarkson pulled out a document. Let me read Trump's statement. 10% tariffs on any and all goods from the UK, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, France, Germany, Netherlands, and Finland, starting February 1st, increasing to 25% by June 1st. He looked up. That's in 12 days. Prime Minister. What's your plan? Starmer shifted slightly. We're engaging in calm diplomatic discussions. Calm, Clarkson challenged. Trump wants to annex Greenland. He's threatening our economy to do it. That's not a situation for calm discussions. A conservative member spoke up. Prime Minister, what did Trump actually say when you spoke to him yesterday? Starmer paused. Those conversations remain confidential. We need to know, Clarkson insisted. Did he threaten you directly? Did he make demands? What exactly happened? Starmer's jaw tightened. I made clear that tariffs against allies are the wrong approach, that territorial integrity matters. But, and what did he say? Clarkson pressed. Silence. Prime Minister? Starmer spoke carefully. President Trump expressed his view that Greenland's security is vital to American interests, that NATO allies should support this position. By helping him annex it? Clarkson asked flatly. That's his position. Yes. The room erupted, MEPs shouting from all sides. This is madness. Trump's lost his mind. What about NATO? The chair banged his gavel repeatedly. When order returned, Clarkson continued. Let's talk about what this actually means. Trump is threatening 10% tariffs in 12 days on all British goods. Our exports to America are worth billions. He pulled out economic data, 200 billion pounds in annual trade. A 10% tariff means British businesses pay an extra 20 billion pounds, rising to 50 billion pounds at 25%. He looked at Starmer. How do you stop that? Starmer responded carefully. We're working through diplomatic channels. That's not an answer, Clarkson interrupted. Trump issued a public threat with specific dates and numbers. What's your specific response? An SNP member jumped in. Will the UK impose retaliatory tariffs on American goods? All eyes on Starmer. A trade war is in no one's interest. That's still not an answer, Clarkson said. Will you or won't you? Starmer met his gaze. At this time, we believe diplomatic solutions are preferable. So, no, Clarkson stated. Trump threatens our economy. You respond with diplomatic discussions. He leaned back. How's that worked so far? Uncomfortable shifting in the room, a labor member tried to defend. Surely maintaining dialogue with America is crucial. The EU is preparing their trade bazooka, Clarkson interrupted. That's their anti coercion instrument. 93 billion euros in counter tariffs. They're ready to fight back. He looked at Starmer. But Britain? We're choosing calm discussions. Why? Starmer's voice hardened slightly. Because we have unique security arrangements with America. Our nuclear deterrent relies on American technology and cooperation.
We cannot simply. So we're hostages, Clarkson finished. The word hung in the air. That's not, isn't it? Clarkson challenged. Trump knows we need America for defense, so he can threaten our economy and we can't fight back. That's leverage. That's being held hostage. Starmer's composure cracked slightly. Our security relationship with America protects every person in this country. At what cost? Clarkson interrupted. If Trump can threaten tariffs over Greenland today, what's next? He demands we leave EU trade agreements, stop supporting Ukraine. Where does it end? The room was tense now. A conservative member stood. Prime Minister, you've cultivated a close relationship with President Trump. You signed trade deals, hosted state visits. Was that all wasted? Starmer tried to respond, but Clarkson continued. Let me read what you said this morning. Mature alliances are not about pretending differences don't exist, but you are pretending, aren't you? He pulled out more notes. You said tariffs are completely wrong, but you won't impose counter-tariffs. You said Trump's approach threatens the alliance, but you're keeping his state visit scheduled for April. His voice grew harder. Where's the line, Prime Minister? What would Trump have to do before you actually take action instead of just expressing concern? Silence. Heavy, uncomfortable. A Lib Dem member spoke quietly. The Daily Mail quoted a senior government figure saying, "We are heading towards a disaster." Was that you, Prime Minister? Starmer's expression tightened. I don't comment on anonymous quotes, but do you believe it? Clarkson asked. Are we heading toward disaster? Starmer chose his words carefully. The situation is serious. It requires careful navigation. That's a yes, Clarkson said. You think we're heading toward disaster, but you're hoping diplomatic language will stop it. He shook his head. Trump doesn't respond to diplomatic language. He responds to power, to consequences, and you're not offering any. A young Labor MP stood, his voice shaking. What about NATO? If Trump annexes Greenland by force, what happens to the alliance? Starmer started to answer, but Clarkson spoke first. It collapses, obviously. You can't have a defensive alliance where one member invades another member's territory. He looked around the room. Denmark is NATO. Greenland is Danish. If America takes Greenland, that's one NATO member attacking another. Article 5 becomes meaningless. He turned to Starmer. So tell us, Prime Minister, if Trump invades Greenland and he suggested military force is possible, what does Britain do? The question hung like a guillotine blade. Starmer's mouth opened, closed. That scenario is we don't believe it will come to that. But if it does, Clarkson pressed, Article 5 says an attack on one is an attack on all. If America attacks Denmark, do we defend Denmark against America? Starmer looked genuinely pained. That would be an unprecedented situation requiring consultation with all NATO members. That's not an answer. Clarkson's voice rose. Britain helped found NATO. We're committed to collective defense, so answer the question. If America invades a NATO ally, whose side are we on? Complete silence. Every MP, every journalist, every person watching held their breath. Starmer's voice was barely above a whisper. We would work to prevent that scenario from ever occurring. By doing what? Clarkson demanded. Diplomatic discussions, expressing concern, that's not prevention. That's hoping for the best. He stood up. Let me tell you what's actually happening. Trump is testing NATO, testing whether America can do whatever it wants and allies will just accept it. He paced slightly. He threatened 8 countries with economic punishment for defending the principle that you can't just buy other countries' territory. That's not about Greenland security. That's about power. He stopped, facing Starmer directly. And your response. Britain's response is to say, please don't, while refusing to impose any actual consequences. His voice grew quieter but more intense. Do you know what that teaches Trump? That he can do anything, anything at all, and Britain will stay loyal no matter what. Starmer tried to respond. Our relationship with America is built on decades of cooperation. It's built on mutual respect, Clarkson interrupted. And respect means having limits, lines that can't be crossed. What are Britain's lines, Prime Minister? Starmer said nothing. Because from where I'm sitting, Clarkson continued, it looks like there aren't any. Trump can threaten our economy, undermine NATO, attack our allies, and we'll just keep smiling and hoping he changes his mind. He shook his head. That's not a special relationship. That's a one-sided relationship, and the whole world is watching. A conservative member stood. The EU is meeting Thursday to discuss coordinated response. Will Britain participate? Starmer nodded. We're in close contact with European partners, but will you join their counter-tariffs?
Clarkson asked. Will you actually stand with Europe against Trump, or will you try to play both sides? Starmer's voice was defensive now. Britain's position is unique. Our security arrangements, our nuclear deterrent make us dependent, Clarkson finished. Trump knows it, you know it, and he is exploiting it. The truth of that settled over the room like ash. The session ended shortly after. No clear answers given, no definitive plan announced, just diplomatic language and carefully measured words. Outside, journalists surrounded anyone willing to comment. Is NATO finished? Will Britain back down? What happens February 1st? No one had answers. Within hours, European leaders condemned Britain's hesitation. German finance minister. We will not be blackmailed. French officials discussing the EU's trade bazooka. Nordic countries reinforcing Greenland's defense. And Britain caught between America and Europe, unable to choose, unwilling to act. Trump's tariff threat remained in place, the deadline approaching. And across Britain, millions watched their prime minister's impossible choice: defend principles or protect security, stand with allies or stay loyal to America, risk everything or accept anything. Clarkson had exposed the truth. Britain had no good options, and everyone knew it.